My wife cheated on me with our business partner, stole $250, $0 from our joint account, and now she's fighting me in court over the house and remaining assets. I thought I knew her, but this betrayal has shattered everything. Hello, everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing about how my wife, Emily, who I thought was the love of my life, turned out to be a complete nightmare. I mean, everything seemed perfect at first. We met in college, got married young, built a business together, and had what I thought was a solid life. But then, out of nowhere, everything started to unravel. It all came crashing down in a way I couldn't have imagined. The first signs were small. Emily started being more secretive with her phone, hiding her texts, rushing out of the house without explanation. She'd get defensive if I asked questions, tell me I was paranoid or insecure. Honestly, I brushed it off because I trusted her. We had our disagreements, but I didn't see anything that screamed betrayal. Then I started noticing her spending more time with Mark, our business partner. They'd go out for meetings, but I could tell something was off. She'd come home late, smelling like perfume I didn't recognize, and her phone would always be glued to her hand. One night, I decided to check our joint bank account. I know, invasive, but I had a gut feeling something was wrong. And what I found was like a punch to the stomach. There in the online transaction history was a withdrawal of $250, $0 gone, just like that. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. That much money just evaporated from our account with no explanation, no warning. I called our bank and they told me the transfer was authorized by Emily. My mind started racing. What the hell was she doing with all that money? Why didn't she tell me? That's when I knew I had to look deeper. I started digging through her emails, her social media. I found messages between her and Mark, flirty, suggestive, and way too intimate. It wasn't just business, they'd been sneaking around for months. I saw photos of them together, late-night texts about secret meetings, and even plans to meet up again. My stomach dropped. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious. How could she do this to me, to us? I kept thinking about all the late nights I worked, the weekends we spent building our company, and how she was out there, lying and cheating behind my back. When I finally confronted her, I was boiling over with rage. I called her at work, told her I knew everything. She answered with that bitchy tone she always used when she was trying to manipulate me. "Oh, so now you're spying on me. You're crazy, John. I don't know what you think you found, but you're overreacting." She lied, of course. Said Mark was just a business partner, that they were just working late on some project, that I was paranoid. But I had the evidence. I had the texts, the bank statements, the photos. There was no denying it anymore. Her reaction was pure disdain. She looked at me like I was the crazy one, like I had no right to be upset. She told me I was overreacting, that I was jealous and insecure. She called me controlling, said I was ruining everything. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Not after all we'd built. Not after all the promises we made. I felt a storm of emotions, anger, heartbreak, and a deep sense of betrayal. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, that I'd trusted her so completely, and she'd been cheating behind my back, stealing from us and lying to my face. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying everything. The way she looked at me during the fight, her cold tone, her fake tears. I knew I had to make a decision. I couldn't stay with someone who'd do this to me. But I also wondered if there was any way back from this, if she'd ever truly change. The betrayal cut so deep that I started questioning everything, my judgment, my trust, my sense of reality. I knew one thing for sure. Emily was no longer the woman I thought she was. And I had to figure out what to do next. The next few days were a blur of anger, confusion, and planning. I couldn't believe how quickly everything had fallen apart. One moment I was building a future with Emily, and the next I was staring at the wreckage of everything we'd worked for, wondering how I'd been so blind. The betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was financial too. Losing that $250, $0 was like a punch to the gut. Our savings, our investments, everything we'd accumulated over the years gone. And all this time she'd been lying to my face, pretending everything was fine. I started digging into the bank statements more thoroughly. I needed to understand where that money went. It took days of combing through transaction after transaction, trying to follow the trail. That's when I discovered the worst part. Emily had transferred a big chunk of that money into accounts she kept hidden from me. Hidden, of course. She'd been funneling money to herself, probably to keep it away from me and maybe even to fund her secret life with Mark. It was clear she'd planned this for a while. She wasn't just cheating, she was stealing from us. I also found out that she'd been lying about her whereabouts. She told me she was working late, attending meetings, but in reality she was out with Mark, probably doing God knows what. I even found messages where she was talking about how we needed to keep this secret, how John would never understand. The level of deception was staggering. I felt like I'd been punched again and again, each revelation more crushing than the last. At that point, I knew I couldn't just confront her again and hope for a different answer. I had to act. I started talking to a lawyer about the best way to handle the situation. Part of me wanted to just blow everything up immediately, to confront her in front of everyone, but I knew better. This wasn't just about anger. It was about protecting what was mine and making sure she didn't get away with it. I also started gathering evidence, screenshots, bank statements, her emails, anything I could use in court or to show her she couldn't lie her way out of this. Meanwhile, Emily kept up her act playing the victim. She'd cry, say she was under so much stress, that I was overreacting, that I was just jealous of her success. She'd even call me insecure, accuse me of turning everything into a fight just because I wanted the truth. But I wasn't buying her bullshit anymore. I saw through her lies, her manipulations. The woman I married was gone, replaced by someone who was willing to betray everything we had for a quick fling and a pile of stolen money. I also started noticing her attitude shift. She became more bitchy, more dismissive. She'd snap at me over nothing, accuse me of spying on her, and try to make me feel guilty for questioning her. It was classic gaslighting, but I'd been through enough to see right through her act. I knew she was scared, that she knew I was onto her. That's when I realized she was trying to spin the story her way, to make me look like the bad guy for catching her. But I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. One thing that made everything worse was her constant lying about the house and assets. She kept insisting she deserved half of everything, even though she'd been caught red-handed. She claimed she'd worked hard, that she was entitled to a share, that I was trying to ruin her. It was infuriating. She'd always been bitchy and selfish, but now she was just plain ruthless. I could see her trying to turn the tables, to make me look like the villain while she played the victim. I knew I had to stay calm and focus on the facts, but inside, I was boiling over with rage. I started making plans to protect myself legally, to ensure she wouldn't walk away with everything. I contacted a lawyer who specialized in divorce and asset protection. We discussed how to freeze accounts, how to prevent her from selling the house, and how to get a restraining order if necessary. I wasn't about to let her get away with this, not without a fight. I was prepared to go to court, to expose her lies, and to make sure she paid for what she'd done. The betrayal cut so deep I wasn't sure how I'd recover. But I knew I couldn't keep living in this nightmare. I had to take control, even if it meant destroying the life I thought I knew. I kept asking myself how I'd missed all the signs, how I'd been so blind to her true nature. The woman I married was gone, replaced by someone who cared only about herself, someone willing to ruin everything for a quick affair and stolen money. And now, I was left to pick up the pieces, wondering how everything had come to this point. The days that followed were a non-stop roller coaster of legal meetings, digging through financial records, and trying to keep my emotions in check. Each new discovery felt like a fresh punch to the gut. I couldn't believe how deep Emily had gone with her lies. She'd been so bitchy, so manipulative, trying to paint herself as the victim, like I was the one ruining everything. But I saw through her act now. Her tears, her fake apologies, they were just tools to keep me off balance while she continued her scheme. I remember sitting in my lawyer's office, staring at the thick folder of evidence I'd collected. Bank statements showing her transfers, emails with her and Mark, receipts from her secret meetings. It was overwhelming. I'd always thought we were solid. I'd always believed she loved me, but it was all a lie. She was cheating on me with Mark, our business partner, and she'd been planning this betrayal. For months, the worst part, she had the audacity to fight me over the house and assets, claiming she deserved half because she contributed to the business and the home. Her argument made me laugh bitterly. I built that business from nothing, put in countless hours, took risks. Emily was always bitchy about money, always demanding her share, but she never actually contributed anything meaningful. She was the kind of person who'd take what she could get and then complain she deserved more. And now she was trying to steal the house, our savings, everything. I knew I had to fight her hard, or she'd walk away with everything while I was left with nothing. I also started thinking about how to protect myself from her next move. She'd been so manipulative, I wouldn't put it past her to try and hide more money, or even sell the house behind my back. I contacted a forensic accountant, someone who could trace her hidden assets, and we started working on a plan to freeze her accounts and prevent her from doing anything sneaky. I felt a strange mix of anger and determination. I wasn't going to let her ruin me, not after everything we'd been through. Meanwhile, Emily kept up her bitchy attitude. She'd snap at me over trivial things, accuse me of trying to control her, and act like she was the innocent victim. She even had the nerve to say I was jealous and possessive. Yeah, right. The woman who's been cheating on me, stealing from us, and lying every step of the way. I couldn't believe her audacity. I'd never seen her so cold, so bitchy, so ruthless. It was like she enjoyed hurting me, like she was reveling in the chaos she'd created. One night she stormed into the house, yelling that she was entitled to her fair share, that I was trying to keep her down, and that she'd fight me tooth and nail in court. I just stared at her, trying to keep my composure. Inside, I was boiling. I knew she was trying to manipulate the situation, to turn everyone against me, but I refused to be the patsy anymore. I'd already seen through her lies. I knew she was just trying to cover her tracks, to make herself look innocent while she played the victim. The legal battle was about to get uglier. I hired a private investigator to gather more evidence, photos, videos, anything that could hurt her case. I wanted her to know I wasn't going down without a fight. I also started documenting everything, every conversation, every encounter, every penny she tried to hide. I knew this was going to court, and I needed to be prepared to show the truth. I didn't care how bitchy she got or how much she lied. I had the facts, and I was ready to use them. It was painful. Every day I felt like I was losing part of myself. The betrayal wasn't just emotional anymore. It was a full-blown attack on my life, my trust, my future. I kept asking myself how I'd missed the signs, how I'd been so naive. Emily had always been bitchy, but I never thought she'd do something like this. I thought we had a solid partnership, a real connection. Turns out I was dead wrong. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. And now I was left to pick up the pieces, trying to figure out how to move forward from everything she'd destroyed, all because she was so damn selfish, so bitchy, so desperate for money and attention that she'd throw everything away for a quick affair and stolen cash. By the time I sat down with my lawyer again, I was already exhausted from the constant stress, but I knew I couldn't stop now. Emily's bitchy attitude was only getting worse, probably because she realized I was onto her. She'd been trying to manipulate the court, claiming she deserved everything because she'd contributed to the house and the business. But she hadn't contributed much except her bitchy attitude, her lies, and her affair. I was so sick of her acting like she was the victim when she was the one who'd betrayed everything we built. The lawyer laid out the options. We needed to file for a temporary restraining order to prevent her from selling or hiding the house, and we'd go after her for the stolen money. I remember feeling a mixture of rage and resolve. I was done playing nice. She crossed every line, and I was ready to fight her in court. The more I thought about it, the more I realized she'd been planning this all along, probably even before I found out. Her bitchy attitude, her constant lying, she was trying to keep her tracks covered, keep her options open. I also found out from my forensic accountant that she'd moved large sums of money into offshore accounts. That bitchy, manipulative woman had been planning her escape for months. She wanted to leave me with nothing, take the house, and run away with Mark. That realization made me furious. I couldn't let her do that. I made sure the court was aware of her hidden assets, her attempts to transfer money illegally, and her lies about her whereabouts. I wanted her to pay for this betrayal not just emotionally but financially as well. Meanwhile, Emily's attitude just got bitchier. She'd call me controlling, jealous, insecure, anything to make herself look like the victim. She'd scream at me in the house, call me paranoid, and accuse me of trying to ruin her life. Honestly, I was so sick of her lies I didn't even bother arguing anymore. I just let her rant. I knew the truth and I had the evidence. The court would see through her act. She was trying to turn everyone against me, but I wasn't going to let that happen. One day she threw a fit because I was going after her assets, calling it unfair, and claiming I was trying to control everything. I looked her in the eyes and told her I was doing what any man would do when his wife was cheating on him, stealing his money and lying to his face. She sneered, said I was crazy, and stormed out of the house. That bitchy attitude was her cover-up, I realized. She was scared shitless because she knew I was closing in on her. I also started to plan how I'd respond to her court claims over the house and assets. I knew she'd try to spin it as contributions, but I had proof I'd built the business, paid the mortgage, and maintained everything. She'd been living off my hard work, lying, cheating, and stealing. I kept telling myself that I'd fight her for what was rightfully mine, no matter how bitchy or manipulative she got. I wasn't going to let her walk away with a single dollar or a piece of the house that I'd worked so hard for. The thing that stung the most was knowing how much I'd trusted her. I thought I knew her, but she was a different person, bitchy, selfish, and entirely self-centered. I kept asking myself how I'd missed all the signs. I had ignored her subtle digs, her bitchy comments, her excuses. I thought her mood swings were just stress or her personality, but now I saw they were part of a bigger plan, her plan to get away with everything. She'd lied to me every step of the way, and I was tired of being the fool. Now I was ready to fight back. I was filing every lawsuit I could, getting every piece of evidence in order and making sure she'd pay for what she'd done. I knew she'd try to spin it, call me crazy, accuse me of controlling her, but I didn't care anymore. The truth was on my side. She'd betrayed me in the worst way possible, and I was going to make sure she paid the price, legally, financially, and emotionally. The betrayal had shattered everything I thought I knew about her, and I was determined to rebuild my life, even if it meant doing it without her. The court date was set faster than I expected, and as the day approached, I felt a mix of relief and dread. Relief because I finally had the chance to lay everything out, proof of her lies, her hidden assets, her cheating. Dread because I knew Emily wouldn't go down without a fight. That bitchy attitude she'd been displaying all along was only going to get worse now that she realized she was cornered. I could see it in her eyes. She was terrified, angry, and desperate. When we finally faced off in court, it was like stepping into a war zone. Emily sat there looking bitchy and defiant, trying to manipulate the judge with her fake tears and sob stories. She kept insisting she deserved her fair share because she'd contributed to the house and the business, even though I had all the proof that I'd built everything myself. She claimed I was trying to control her, but the reality was she'd been controlling everything: her lies, her secret meetings, her stolen money. My lawyer presented the evidence: bank statements showing the transfers, her emails with Mark, the offshore accounts, the receipts from her secret meetings. I watched her face twist into a bitchy sneer when the judge read out the facts. She tried to deny everything at first, but the evidence was overwhelming. She kept arguing, trying to spin it her way, but I could see her losing her composure. Her bitchy attitude was slipping just enough to reveal her true self: desperate, manipulative, and guilty. The judge finally made a ruling, freezing her assets, halting her from selling or transferring the house, and ordering her to pay back the stolen money. I felt a huge weight lift off my chest, but I also knew this wasn't over. Emily was already scheming, probably planning her next move. She stormed out of the courtroom, bitchy and furious, yelling that she'd fight this all the way, that she'd ruin me if she had to. I just stood there watching her go, knowing I'd done everything I could to protect myself. After the court, I started to reflect on everything that had happened. I realized how much I'd been blindsided by her lies, her manipulations, her betrayal. I'd trusted her, loved her, and she'd used that trust against me. The betrayal had shattered my view of her, but it also made me see how much I needed to rebuild my life. I decided then that I wouldn't let her ruin me any further. I was going to move on, stronger and more cautious than ever before. The aftermath was brutal. Emily tried to come back, begging for forgiveness, claiming she'd change, but I knew better. Her bitchy attitude was still there, and I saw it for what it was, a mask hiding her guilt and desperation. I cut ties completely. I sold the house, cut her out of my life, and started focusing on rebuilding my trust in myself. It wasn't easy, and part of me still felt the sting of betrayal every day, but I knew I had to move forward. Looking back, I realized just how much this whole nightmare taught me. Trust is fragile, and betrayal can come from the people you least expect. I learned to be more cautious, to read the signs of a bitchy, manipulative person before it's too late. Most importantly, I learned that no matter how much someone manipulates or lies, the truth always finds a way to come out. And if you're willing to fight for it, you can survive even the worst betrayals. I'm still healing, still trying to trust again, but I know I'll come out of this stronger. If there's one thing I'd tell anyone in a similar situation, it's to trust your instincts, gather proof early, and never let a bitchy manipulator get away with their lies. Because in the end, honesty and integrity matter more than anything else. Now that everything's settled, I spend a lot of time reflecting on what happened and trying to piece myself back together. Honestly, I never thought I'd be that guy. Someone betrayed so deeply, so ruthlessly, by the woman I loved. But I guess life has a way of showing you your true strength when you're forced to face the worst. Emily's bitchy attitude, her lies, her manipulation, they all revealed a side of her I never knew existed. It's hard to admit, but I feel a sense of relief now that it's all out in the open. Since the court case, I've been focusing on rebuilding my life. I've started fresh, moved into a new place, and reconnected with friends and family I'd neglected during the chaos. I've learned a lot from this nightmare, about trust, about people's true intentions, and about how to spot the signs of a manipulative, selfish person before it's too late. I wish I could say I'm completely healed, but the scars are still there. The betrayal cuts so deep that it's going to take time to fully trust again. What I've come to realize is that sometimes people are exactly who they show you they are: bitchy, selfish, manipulative, and willing to do whatever it takes to get what they want. The key is to pay attention to the red flags early on. I ignored a lot because I wanted to believe in her, but now I see that trusting blindly only makes you vulnerable. The truth is, I should have been more cautious from the start, especially when her attitude started turning bitchy and her stories didn't add up. Looking back, I also understand how important it is to protect yourself financially. That stolen $250, $0 was a wake-up call. I learned to keep a closer eye on my accounts, to trust my instincts, and to never assume someone is on your side just because they say they are. Emily's lies and manipulations taught me that betrayal can come from the people closest to you, and it's on you to be prepared. Most of all, I've learned that revenge, while tempting, isn't always the answer. I didn't want to stoop to her level and become bitter or vindictive. Instead, I focused on justice, making sure she paid for her actions legally and then moving on with my life. That's what helped me heal. I took control, fought for what was rightfully mine, and refused to let her destroy my future. Now I'm just trying to rebuild my trust in people, in life, and in myself. I've realized that the biggest lesson isn't about revenge or money. It's about self-respect and knowing your worth. Emily's bitchy attitude, her lies, her betrayal, they all taught me that I deserve honesty, loyalty, and respect from the people in my life. And if I don't see those qualities, I walk away. So here I am, still standing, a little more cautious than before, but stronger than I ever thought I could be. I hope my story serves as a warning to anyone out there who might be ignoring the signs of a manipulative, selfish partner. Because trust me, It's better to see it early than to find out the hard way, like I did, that some people are just not worth your time or your heart.